Good evening, my dear friend. I'm truly glad you've chosen to spend this quiet evening with me. Perhaps the day has been long. Perhaps the world outside still feels a little too busy. Tonight, we'll leave all of that behind. Together, we'll step into the timeless world of the Brothers Grimm, where ancient forests whisper in the moonlight, forgotten castles hide old secrets, and every tale carries a quiet lesson wrapped in wonder. There's nothing you need to do now except settle comfortably, breathe slowly, and let these stories unfold at their own gentle pace. Whenever you're ready, let us begin. Tale 1: Cat and Mouse in Partnership. A certain cat had made the acquaintance of a mouse and had said so much to her about the great love and friendship she felt for her, that at length the mouse agreed that they should live and keep house together. But we must make a provision for winter, or else we shall suffer from hunger, said the cat. And you, little mouse, cannot venture everywhere, or you will be caught in a trap someday. The good advice was followed, and a pot of fat was bought. But they did not know where to put it. At length, after much consideration, the cat said, "I know no place where it will be better stored up than in the church, for no one dares take anything away from there. We will set it beneath the altar and not touch it until we are really in need of it." So the pot was placed in safety, but it was not long before the cat had a great yearning for it and said to the mouse, "I want to tell you something, little mouse. My cousin has brought a little son into the world and has asked me to be godmother. He is white with brown spots, and I underhold him over the font at the christening. Let me go out today, and you look after the house by yourself." "Yes, yes," answered the mouse. "By all means go, and if you get anything very good to eat, think of me. I should like a drop of sweet red christening wine myself." All this, however, was untrue. The cat had no cousin and had not been asked to be godmother. She went straight to the church, crept to the pot of fat, began to lick at it, and licked the top of the fat off. Then she took a walk upon the roofs of the town, looked out for opportunities, and then stretched herself in the sun and licked her lips whenever she thought of the pot of fat. And not until it was evening did she return home. "Well, here you are again," said the mouse. "No doubt you have had a merry day." "All went off well," answered the cat. "What name did they give the child?" "Top off," said the cat quite coolly. "Top off," cried the mouse. "That is a very odd and uncommon name. Is it a usual one in your family?" "What does that matter?" said the cat. "It is no worse than Crimstealer, as your godchildren are called." Before long, the cat was seized by another fit of yearning. She said to the mouse, "You must do me a favor, and once more manage the house for a day alone. I am again asked to be godmother, and as the child has a white ring round its neck, I cannot refuse." The good mouse consented, but the cat crept behind the town walls to the church and devoured half the pot of fat. Nothing ever seems so good as what one keeps to oneself, said she, and was quite satisfied with her day's work. When she went home, the mouse inquired, "And what was the child christened?" "Half done," answered the cat. "Half done? What are you saying? Never heard the name in my life. I'll wager anything it is not in the calendar." The cat's mouth soon began to water for some more licking. "All good things go in threes," said she. "I am asked to stand godmother again. The child is quite black only. It has white paws, but with that exception, it has not a single white hair on its whole body. This only happens once every few years. You will let me go, won't you? Top off." "Half done," answered the mouse. "They are such odd names. They make me very thoughtful." "You sit at home," said the cat, "in your dark gray fur coat and long tail, and are filled with fancies. That's because you do not go out in the daytime." During the cat's absence, the mouse cleaned the house and put it in order, but the greedy cat entirely emptied the pot of fat. "When everything is eaten up, one has some peace," said Cheetah to herself. And well-filled and fat, she did not return home till night. The mouse at once asked what name had been given to the third child. "It will not please you more than the others," said the cat. "He is called All Gone." "All Gone," cried the mouse. "That is the most suspicious name of all. I have never seen it in print. All Gone. What can that mean?" And she shook her head, curled herself up, and lay down to sleep. From this time forth, no one invited the cat to be godmother. But when the winter had come, and there was no longer anything to be found outside, the mouse thought of their provision and said, Come, cat, we will go to our pot of fat, which we have stored up for ourselves. We shall enjoy that." "Yes," answered the cat, "you will enjoy it as much as you would enjoy sticking that dainty tongue of yours out of the window." They set out on their way, but when they arrived, the pot of fat certainly was still in its place, but it was empty. "Alas," said the mouse, "now I see what has happened. Now it comes to light. You, a true friend, you have devoured all when you were standing godmother. First top off, then half done. Then will you hold your tongue?" cried the cat. "One word more, and I will eat you too." "All gone," was already on the poor mouse's lips. Scarcely had she spoken it before the cat sprang on her, seized her, and swallowed her down. Verily, that is the way of the world. Tale 2. Our Lady's Child. Hard by a great forest dwelt a woodcutter with his wife, who had an only child, a little girl 3 years old. They were so poor, however, that they no longer had daily bread, and did not know how to get food for her. One morning, the woodcutter went out sorrowfully to his work in the forest, and while he was cutting wood, suddenly there stood before him a tall and beautiful woman with a crown of shining stars on her head, who said to him, "I am the Virgin Mary, mother's the child Jesus. Thou art poor and needy. Bring thy child to me. I will take her with me and be her mother and care for her." The woodcutter obeyed, brought his child, and gave her to the Virgin Mary, who took her up to heaven with her. There the child fared well, ate super cakes, and drank sweet milk, and her clothes were of gold, and the little angels played with her. And when she was 14 years of age, the Virgin Mary called her one day and said, "Dear child, I am about to make a long journey. So take into thy keeping the keys of the 13 doors of heaven. 12 of these thou mayest open, and behold the glory which is within them. But the 13th, to which this little key belongs, is forbidden thee. Beware of opening it, or thou wilt bring misery on thyself." The girl promised to be obedient, and when the Virgin Mary was gone, she began to examine the dwellings of the kingdom of heaven. Each day she opened one of them, until she had made the round of the 12. In each of them sat one of the apostles in the midst of a great light, and she rejoiced in all the magnificence and splendor. And the little angels who always accompanied her rejoiced with her. Then the forbidden door alone remained, and she felt a great desire to know what could be hidden behind it. and said to the angels, I will not quite open it, and I will not go inside it, but I will unlock it so that we can just see a little through the opening. Oh no, said the little angels. That would be a sin. The Virgin Mary has forbidden it, and it might easily cause thy unhappiness. Then she was silent, but the desire in her heart was not stilled, but gnawed there, and tormented her, and let her have no rest. And once, when the angels had all gone out, she thought, now I am quite alone, and I could peep in. If I do it, no one will ever know. She sought out the key, and when she had got it in her hand, she put it in the lock. And when she had put it in, she turned it round as well. Then the door sprang open, and she saw there the Trinity sitting in fire and splendor. She stayed there a while and looked at everything in amazement. Then she touched the light a little with her finger, and her finger became quite golden. Immediately, a great fear fell on her. She shut the door violently and ran away. Her terror, too, would not quit her. Let her do what she might, and her heart beat continually and would not be still. The gold, too, stayed on her finger and would not go away. Let her rub it and wash it, never so much. It was not long before the Virgin Mary came back from her journey. She called the girl before her and asked to have the keys of heaven back. When the maiden gave her the bunch, the Virgin looked into her eyes and said, Hast thou not opened the 13th door also? No, she replied. Then she laid her hand on the girl's heart and felt how it beat and beat, and so right well that she had disobeyed her order and had opened the door. Then she said once again, Art thou certain that thou hast not done it? Yes, said the girl for the second time. Then she perceived the finger which had become golden from touching the fire of heaven, and saw well that the child had sinned, and said for the third time, Hast thou not done it? No, said the girl for the third time. Then said the Virgin Mary, Thou hast not obeyed me, and besides that thou hast lied, thou art no longer worthy to be in heaven. Then the girl fell into a deep sleep, and when she awoke, she lay on the earth below and in the midst of a wilderness. She wanted to cry out, but she could bring forth no sound. She sprang up and wanted to run away, but whithersoever she turned herself, she was continually held back by thick hedges of thorns through which she could not break. In the desert in which she was imprisoned there stood an old hollow tree, and this had to be her dwelling place. Into this she crept when night came, and here she slept. Here, too, she found a shelter from storm and rain, but it was a miserable life, and bitterly did she weep when she remembered how happy she had been in heaven, and how the angels had played with her. Roots and wild berries were her only food, and for these she sought as far as she could go. In the autumn, she picked up the fallen nuts and leaves and carried them into the hole. The nuts were her food in winter, and when snow and ice came, she crept amongst the leaves like a poor little animal that she might not freeze. Before long, her clothes were all torn, and one bit of them after another fell off her. As soon, however, as the sun shone warm again, she went out and sat in front of the tree, and her long hair covered her on all sides like a mantle. Thus she sat year after year and felt the pain and the misery of the world. One day, when the trees were once more clothed in fresh green, the king of the country was hunting in the forest and followed a roe, and as it had fled into the thicket which shut in this part of the forest, he got off his horse, tore the bushes under her, and cut himself a path with his sword. When he had at last forced his way through, he saw a wonderfully beautiful maiden sitting under the tree, and she sat there and was entirely covered with her golden hair down to her very feet. He stood still and looked at her full of surprise. Then he spoke to her and said, "Who art thou? Why art thou sitting here in the wilderness?" But she gave no answer, for she could not open her mouth. The king continued, "Wilt thou go with me to my castle?" Then she just nodded her head a little. The king took her in his arms, carried her to his horse, and rode home with her. And when he reached the royal castle, he caused her to be dressed in beautiful garments and gave her all things in abundance. Although she could not speak, she was still so beautiful and charming that he began to love her with all his heart. And it was not long before he married her. After a year or so had passed, the queen brought a son into the world. Thereupon the Virgin Mary appeared to her in the night when she lay in her bed alone, and said, "If thou wilt tell the truth and confess that thou didst unlock the forbidden door, I will open thy mouth and give thee back thy speech. But if thou perseverest in thy sin and deniest obstinately, I will take thy newborn child away with me." Then the queen was permitted to answer, But she remained hard and said, "No, I did not open the forbidden door." And the Virgin Mary took the newborn child from her arms and vanished with it. Next morning, when the child was not to be found, it was whispered among the people that the queen was a man-eater and had killed her own child. She heard all this and could say nothing to the contrary. But the king would not believe it, for he loved her so much. When a year had gone by, the queen again bore a son. And in the night, the Virgin Mary again came to her. "If thou wilt confess that thou openest the forbidden door, I will give thee thy child back and untie thy tongue. But if you continuest in sin and denies it, I will take away with me this new child also." Then the queen again said, "No, I did not open the forbidden door." And the virgin took the child out of her arms and away with her to heaven. Next morning, when this child also had disappeared, the people declared quite loudly that the queen had devoured it, and the king's counselors demanded that she should be brought to justice. The king, however, loved her so dearly that he would not believe it, and commanded the counselors under pain of death not to say any more about it. The following year, the queen gave birth to a beautiful little daughter, and for the third time, the Virgin Mary appeared to her in the night and said, "Follow me." She took the queen by the hand and led her to heaven, and showed her there her two eldest children, who smiled at her and were playing with the ball of the world. When the queen rejoiced thereat, the Virgin Mary said, "Is thy heart not yet softened? If thou wilt own that thou openest the forbidden door, I will give thee back thy two little sons." But for the third time, the queen answered, "No, I did not open the forbidden door." Then the Virgin let her sink down to earth once more, and took from her, likewise, her third child. Next morning, when the lust was reported abroad, all the people cried loudly, "The queen is a man-eater. She must be judged." And the king was no longer able to restrain his counselors. Thereupon a trial was held, and as she could not answer and defend herself, she was condemned to be burnt alive. The wood was got together, and when she was fast bound to the stake, and the fire began to burn round about her, the hard ice of pride melted. Her heart was moved by repentance, and she thought, "If I could but confess before my death that I opened the door." Then her voice came back to her and she cried out loudly, "Yes, Mary, I did it." And straightway rain fell from the sky and extinguished the flames of fire, and a light broke forth above her, and the Virgin Mary descended with the 2 little sons by her side, and the newborn daughter in her arms. She spoke kindly to her and said, "He who repents his sin and acknowledges it is forgiven." Then she gave her the 3 children, ungied her tongue, and granted her happiness for her whole life. Tale 3. The story of the youth who went forth to learn what fear was. A father had 2 sons, the elder of whom was smart and sensible and could do everything. But the younger was stupid and could neither learn nor understand anything. And when people saw him, they said, "There's a fellow who will give his father some trouble." When anything had to be done, it was always the elder who was forced to do it. But if his father bade him fetch anything when it was late or in the night time, and the way led through the churchyard or any other dismal place, he answered, "Oh no, Father, I'll not go there. It makes me shudder," for he was afraid. Or when stories were told by the fire at night, which made the fish creep, the listeners sometimes said, "Oh, it makes us shudder." The younger sat in a corner and listened with the rest of them, and could not imagine what they could mean. They are always saying, "It makes me shudder. It makes me shudder." It does not make me shudder, for he, that too, must be an art of which I understand nothing. Now it came to pass that his father said to him one day, "Hearken to me, thou fellow, in the corner, there thou art growing tall and strong, and thou too must learn something by which thou canst earn thy bread. Look how thy brother works, but thou does not even earn thy salt." "Well, Father," he replied, "I am quite willing to learn something indeed, if it could but be managed. I should like to learn how to shudder. I don't understand that at all yet." The elder brother smiled when he heard that, and thought to himself, "Goodness, what a blockhead that brother of mine is. He will never be good for anything as long as he lives. He who wants to be a sickle must bend himself betimes." The father sighed and answered him, "Thou shalt soon learn what it is to shudder, but thou wilt not earn thy bread by that." Soon after this, the sexton came to the house on a visit. And the father bewailed his trouble and told him how his younger son was so backward in every respect that he knew nothing and learned nothing. "Just think," said he, "when I asked him how he was going to earn his bread, he actually wanted to learn to shudder." "If that be all," replied the sexton, "he can learn that with me. Send him to me, and I will soon polish him." The father was glad to do it, for he thought it will train the boy a little. The sexton therefore took him into his house, and he had to ring the church bell. After a day or two, the sexton awoken at midnight and bade him arise and go up into the church tower and ring the bell. "Thou shalt soon learn what shunning is," thought he, and secretly went there before him. And when the boy was at the top of the tower and turned round and was just going to take hold of the bell, he saw a white figure standing on the stairs opposite the sounding hall. "Who is there?" cried he. But the figure made no reply and did not move or stir. "Give an answer," cried the boy, "or take thyself off. Thou hast no business here at night." The sexton, however, remained standing motionless, that the boy might think he was a ghost. The boy cried a second time, "What do you want here? Speak if thou art an honest fellow, or I will throw thee down the steps." The sexton thought he can't intend to be as bad as his words, uttered no sound, and stood as if he were made of stone. Then the boy called to him for the third time, and as that was also to no purpose, he ran against him and pushed the ghost down the stairs so that it fell down the 10 steps and remained lying there in a corner. Thereupon he rang the bell, went home, and without saying a word went to bed and fell asleep. The sexton's wife waited a long time for her husband, but he did not come back. At length, she became uneasy and wakened the boy and asked, "Dost thou not know where my husband is? He climbed up the tower before thou dost." "No, I don't know," replied the boy. But someone was standing by the sounding hole on the other side of the steps, and as he would neither give an answer nor go away, I took him for a scoundrel and threw him downstairs. Just go there, and you will see if it was he. I should be sorry if it were." The woman ran away and found her husband, who was lying moaning in the corner and had broken his leg. She carried him down, and then, with loud screams, she hastened to the boy's father. "Your boy cried," She has been the cause of a great misfortune. He has thrown my husband down the steps so that he broke his leg. Take the good-for-nothing fellow out of our house." The father was terrified and ran thither and scolded the boy. "What wicked tricks are these?" said he. "The devil must have put them into thy head." "Father," he replied, "do listen to me. I am quite innocent." He was standing there by night, like one intent on doing evil. I did not know who it was, and I entreated him 3 times either to speak or to go away. "Ah," said the father, "I have nothing but unhappiness with you. Go out of my sight. I will see thee no more." "Yes, Father, quite willingly. Wait only until it is day. Then will I go forth and learn how to shudder, and then I shall at any rate understand one art which will support me." "Learn what thou wilt," spoke the father. "It is all the same to me. Here are 50 taler for thee. Take these and go into the wide world, and tell no one from whence thou comest, and who is thy father, for I have reason to be ashamed of thee." "Yes, Father, it shall be as you will. If you desire nothing more than that, I can easily keep it in mind." When day dawned, therefore, the boy put his 50 taler into his pocket and went forth on the great highway, and continually said to himself, "If I could but shudder, if I could but shudder." Then a man approached, who heard this conversation, which the youth was holding with himself. And when they had walked a little farther, to where they could see the gallows, the man said to him, "Look, there is the tree where 7 men have married the rope maker's daughter, and are now learning how to fly. Sit down beneath it, and wait till night comes, and thou would soon learn how to shudder." "If that is all that is wanted," answered the youth, "it is easily done. But if I learn how to shudder as fast as that, thou shalt have my 50 taler. Just come back to me early in the morning." Then the youth went to the gallows, sat down beneath it, and waited till evening came. And as he was cold, he lighted himself a fire. But at midnight, the wind blew so sharply that in spite of his fire, he could not get warm. And as the wind knocked the hanged men against each other, and they moved backwards and forwards, he thought to himself, "If thou shiverest below by the fire, how those up above must freeze and suffer." And as he felt pity for them, he raised the ladder and climbed up, unbound one of them after the other, and brought down all 7. Then he stoked the fire, blew it, and set them all around it to warm themselves. But they sat there and did not stir, and the fire caught their clothes. So he said, "Take care, or I will hang you up again." The dead man, however, did not hear, but were quite silent, and let their rags go on burning. At this he grew angry and said, "If you will not take care, I cannot help you. I will not be burnt with you." And he hung them up again, each in his store. Then he sat down by his fire and fell asleep. And the next morning the man came to him and wanted to have the 50 taler, and said, "Well dost thou know how to shudder?" "No," answered he, "how should I know?" Those fellows up there did not open their mouths, and were so stupid that they let the few old rags which they had on their bodies get burnt. Then the man saw that he would not get the $50 talus that day, and went away saying, "Such a youth has never come my way before." The youth likewise went his way, and once more began to mutter to himself, "Ah, if I could but shudder! Ah, if I could but shudder!" A wagon who was striding behind him heard this, and asked, "Who art thou?" "I don't know," answered the youth. Then the wagoner asked, "From whence comest thou? I know not. Who is thy father, that I may not tell thee? What is it that thou art always muttering between my teeth?" "Ah," replied the youth, "I do so wish I could show no one can teach me how." "Enough of thy foolish chatter," said the wagoner. "Come, go with me. I will see about a place for thee." The youth went with the wagoner, and in the evening they arrived at an inn where they wished to pass the night. Then, at the entrance of the parlor, the youth again said quite loudly, "If I could but shudder, if I could but shudder." The host who heard this laughed and said, "If that as you know, what led by this fire from your hand, here ought to be a good opportunity for you. So many prying persons have already lost their lives. It would be a pity and a shame if such beautiful eyes as these should never see the daylight again." But the youth said, "However difficult it may be, I will learn it. For this purpose, indeed, have I journeyed forth." He let the host have no rest until the latter told him that not far from then stood a haunted castle where anyone could very easily learn what shuddering was if he would but watch in it for 3 nights. The king had promised that he who would venture should have his daughter to wife, and she was the most beautiful maiden the sun Shaolon. Likewise in the castle lay great treasures, which were guarded by evil spirits, and these treasures would then be freed and would make a poor man rich enough. Already many men had gone into the castle, but as yet none had come out again. Then the youth went next morning to the king and said, "If it be allowed, I will willingly watch 3 nights in the haunted castle." The king looked at him, and as the youth pleased him, he said, "Thou mayest ask for 3 things to take into the castle with thee, but they must be things without life." Then he answered, "Then I ask for a fire, a turning lathe, and a cutting board with a knife." The king had these things carried into the castle for him during the day. When night was drawing near, the youth went up and made himself a bright fire in one of the rooms, placed the cutting board, the knife of the Turing law beside it. Oh, if I could but shudder, but I shall not learn it here either. Towards midnight, he was about to poke his fire, and as he was blowing it, something cried suddenly from one corner, "Oh, me, oh, how cold we are." "You fools," cried he, "what are you crying about? If you are cold, come and take a seat by the fire and warm yourselves." And when he had said that 2 great black cats came with one tremendous leap and sat down on each side of him and looked savagely at him with their fiery eyes. After a short time, when they had warmed themselves, they said, "Comrade, shall we have a game of cards?" "Why not?" he replied, "but just show me your balls." Then they stretched out their claws. "Oh," said he, "what long nails you have. Wait, I must first cut them for you." Thereupon he seized them by the throats, put them on the cutting board, and screwed their feet fast. "I have looked at your fingers," said he, "and my fancy for card playing has gone," and he struck them dead and threw them out into the water. But when he had made away with these 2 and was about to sit down again by his fire, out from every hole and corner came black cats and black dogs with red-hot chains, and more of them came until he could no longer move. And they yelled horribly, and got on his fire, pulled it to pieces, and tried to put it out. He watched them for a while quietly, but at last, when they were going too far, he seized his cutting knife and cried, "Away with you, vermin," and began to cut them down. Some of them ran away. The others he killed and threw out into the fish pond. When he came back, he found the embers of his fire again, and warned himself. And as he thus sat, his eyes would keep open no longer, and he felt a desire to sleep. Then he looked round and saw a great bed in the corner. "That is the very thing for me," said he, and got into it. When he was just going to shut his eyes, however, the bed began to move of its own accord, and went over the whole of the castle. "That's right," said he, "but go faster." Then the bed rolled on, as if 6 horses were harnessed to it, up and down, over thresholds and stairs. But suddenly, hop, hop, it turned over upside down, and lay on him like a mountain. But he threw quilts and pillows up in the air, got out, and said, "Now anyone who likes may drive," and lay down by his fire and slept till it was day. In the morning, the king came, and when he saw him lying there on the ground, he thought the evil spirits had killed him, and he was dead. Then said he, "After all, it is a pity for so handsome a man." The youth heard it, got up, and said, "It has not come to that yet." Then the king was astonished, but very glad, and asked how he had fared. "Very well indeed," answered he. "One night has passed. The 2 others will pass likewise." Then he went to the innkeeper, who opened his eyes very wide and said, "I never expected to see thee alive again. Hast thou learned how to shudder yet?" "No," said he, "it is all in vain. If someone would but tell me." The second night, he again went up into the old castle, sat down by the fire, and once more began his old song. If I could but shudder. When midnight came, an uproar and noise of tumbling about was heard. At first it was low, but it grew louder and louder, that it was quiet for a while, and at length with a loud scream, half a man came down the chimney and fell before it. "Ho!" cried he, "another half belongs to this. This is not enough." Then the uproar began again. There was a roaring and howling, and the other half fell down likewise. "Wait," said he, "I will just stoke up the fire a bit for thee." When he had done that, and looked round again, the two pieces were joined together, and the hideous man was sitting in his place. "That is no part of our bargain," said the youth. "The bench is mine." The man wanted to push him away. The youth, however, would not allow that, but thrust him off with all his strength, and seated himself again in his own place. Then still more men fell down one after the other. They brought 9 dead men's legs and 2 skulls, and set them up, and played at 9 pens with them. The youth also wanted to play, and said, "Listen, can I join you?" "Yes, if thou hast money." "Money enough," replied he, "but your bowls are not quite round." Then he took the skulls and put them in the lathe and turned them till they were round. "There now, they will roll better," said he. "Now we'll have fun." He played with them and lost some of his money. But when it struck 12, everything vanished from his sight. He lay down and quietly fell asleep. Next morning, the king came to inquire after him. "How has it fared with you this time?" asked he. "I have been playing at 9 pins," he answered, "and have lost a couple of fairings." "Hast thou not shuddered then?" "What," said he, "I have had a wonderful time if I did but know what it was to shudder." The third night he sat down again on his bench and said quite sadly, "If I could but shudder." When it grew late, 6 tall men came in and brought a coffin. Then said he, "Ha, soz. That is certainly my little cousin, who died only a few days ago." And he beckoned with his finger and cried, "Come, little cousin, come." They placed the coffin on the ground, but he went to it and took the lid off, and a dead man lay therein. He felt his face, but it was cold as ice. "Wait," said he, "I will warm thee a little," and went to the fire and warmed his hand and laid it on the dead man's face, but he remained cold. Then he took him out and sat down by the fire, and laid him on his breast, and rubbed his arms, that the blood might circulate again. As this also did no good, he thought to himself, when two people lie in bed together, they warm each other, and carried him to the bed, covered him over, and lay down by him. After a short time, the dead man became warm too, and began to move. Then said the youth, "See, little cousin, have I not warmed thee?" The dead man, however, got up and cried, "Now will I strangle thee." What said he? "Is that the way you thank me? You shall at once go into your coffin again." And he took him up, threw him into it, and shut the lid. Then came the 6 men, and carried it away again. "I cannot manage to shy, cannot manage to shudder," said he. "I shall never learn it here as long as I live." Then a man entered who was taller than all others and looked terrible. He was old, however, and had a long white beard. "You wretch," cried he, "you shall soon learn what it is to shudder, for you shall die." "Not so fast," replied the youth. "If I am to die, I shall have to have a say in it. I will soon seize you," said the fiend. "Softly, softly. Do not talk so big. I am as strong as you are, and perhaps even stronger." "We shall see," said the old man. "If you are stronger, I will let you go. Come, we will try." Then he led him by dark passages to a smith's forge, took an axe, and with one blow struck an anvil into the ground. "I can do better than that," said the youth, and went to the other anvil. The old man placed himself near and wanted to look on, and his white beard hung down. Then the youth seized the axe, split the anvil with one blow, and in it caught the old man's beard. "Now I have you," said the youth. "Now it is your turn to die." Then he seized an iron bar and beat the old man till he moaned, and entreated him to stop when he would give him great riches. The youth drew out the axe and let him go. The old man led him back into the castle, and in the cellar showed him 3 chests full of gold. Of these, said he, one part is for the poor, the other for the king, the third yours. In the meantime, it struck 12, and the spirit disappeared, so that the youth stood in darkness. I shall still be able to find my way out, said he, and felt about, found the way into the room, and slept there by his fire. Next morning, the king came and said, "Now you must have learned what shuddering is." "No," he answered. "What can it be? My dead cousin was here, and a bearded man came and showed me a great deal of money down below, but no one told me what it was to shudder." Then said the king, "You have saved the castle, and you shall marry my daughter." "That is all very well," said he, "but still I do not know what it is to shudder." Then the gold was brought up, and the wedding celebrated. But howsoever much the young king loved his wife, and however happy he was, he still said always, "If I could but shudder, if I could but shudder." And this at last angered her. Her waiting maid said, "I will find a cure for him. He shall soon learn what it is to shudder." When she went out to the stream, which flowed through the garden, and had a whole bucket full of gudgeons brought to her, at night, when the young king was sleeping, his wife was to draw the clothes off him and empty the bucket full of cold water with the gudgeons in it over him, so that the little fishes would sprawl about him. When this was done, he woke up and cried, "Oh, what makes me shudder so? What makes me shudder so, dear wife? Ah, now I know what it is to shudder." Tale 4. Trusty John, Faithful John. There was once upon a time an old king who was ill, and thought to himself, "I am lying on what must be my deathbed." Then said he, "Tell Faithful John to come to me." Faithful John was his favorite servant, and was so called because he had, for his whole lifelong being, so true to him. When therefore he came beside the bed, the king said to him, "Most faithful John, I feel my end approaching, and have no anxiety except about my son. He is still of tender age, and cannot always know how to guide himself. If you do not promise me to teach him everything that he ought to know, and to be his foster father, I cannot close my eyes in peace." Then answered Faithful John, "I will not forsake him, and will serve him with fidelity, even if it should cost me my life." At this, the old king said, "Then I die in comfort and peace." And he added, "After my death, you shall show him the whole castle, all the chambers, halls, and vaults, and all the treasures which lie therein. But the last chamber in the long gallery, in which is the picture of the princess of the golden dwelling, shall you not show? If he sees that picture, he will fall violently in love with her, and will drop down in a swoon, and go through great danger for her sake. Therefore, you must protect him from that." And when faithful John had once more given his promise to the old king about this, the king said no more, but laid his head on his pillow and died. When the old king had been carried to his grave, faithful John told the young king all that he had promised his father on his deathbed, and said, "This will I assuredly perform, and will be faithful to you, as I have been faithful to him, even if it should cost me my life." When the mourning was over, faithful John said to him, "It is now time that you should see your inheritance. I will show you your father's palace." Then he took him about everywhere, up and down, and let him see all the riches and the magnificent apartments. Only there was one room which he did not open, that in which hung the dangerous picture. The picture, however, was so placed that when the door was opened, he looked straight on it, and it was so admirably painted that it seemed to breathe and live. And there is nothing more charming or more beautiful in the whole world. The young king, however, plainly remarked that faithful John always walked past this one door, and said, "Why do you never open this one for me?" "There is something within it," he replied, "which would terrify you." But the king answered, "I have seen all the palace, and I will know what is in this room also." And he went and tried to break open the door by force. Then faithful John Helen back and said, "I promised your father before his death that you should not see that which is in this chamber. It might bring the greatest misfortune on you and on me." "Ah, no," replied the young king. "If I do not go in, it will be my certain destruction. I should have no rest day or night until I had seen it with my own eyes. I shall not leave the place now until you have unlocked the door." Then faithful John saw that there was no help for it now, and with a heavy heart and many sighs sought out the key from the great bunch. When he had opened the door, he went in first, and thought by standing before him he could hide the portrait, so that the king should not see it in front of him. But what availed that? The king stood on tiptoe and saw it over his shoulder. And when he saw the portrait of the maiden, which was so magnificent and shone with gold and precious stones, he fell fainting to the ground. Faithful John took him up, carried him to his bed, and sorrowfully fought. The misfortune has befallen us, Lord God. What will be the end of it? Then he strengthened him with wine until he came to himself again. The first words the king said were, "Ah, a beautiful portrait. Whose is it that is the princess of the golden dwelling?" answered faithful John. Then the king continued, "My love for her is so great that if all the leaves on all the trees were tongues, they could not declare it. I will give my life to win her. You are my most faithful John. You must help me." The faithful servant considered within himself for a long time how to set about the matter, for it was difficult even to obtain a sight of the king's daughter. At length he thought of a way and said to the king, "Everything which she has about her is of gold tables, chairs, dishes, glasses, bowls, and household furniture. Among your treasures are 5 tons of gold. Let one of the goldsmiths of the kingdom fashion these into all manner of vessels and utensils, into all kinds of birds, wild beasts, and strange animals, such as may please her, and we will go there with them and try our luck." The king ordered all the goldsmiths to be brought to him, and they had to work night and day until at last the most splendid things were prepared. When everything was stowed on board, a ship faithful, John put on the dress of a merchant, and the king was forced to do the same in order to make himself quite unrecognizable. Then they sailed across the sea and sailed on until they came to the town wherein dwelt the princess of the golden dwelling. Faithful John bade the king stay behind on the ship and wait for him. "Perhaps I shall bring the princess with me," said he. "Therefore, see that everything is in order, have the golden vessels set out, and the whole ship decorated. Then he gathered together in his apron all kinds of gold things, went on shore, and walked straight to the royal palace. When he entered the courtyard of the palace, a beautiful girl was standing there by the well with 2 golden buckets in her hand, drawing water with them. And when she was just turning round to carry away the sparkling water, she saw the stranger and asked who he was. So he answered, "I am a merchant," and opened his apron and let her look in. Then she cried, "Oh, what beautiful gold things!" and put her pails down and looked at the golden wares, one after the other. Then said the girl, "The princess must see these. She has such great pleasure in golden things that she will buy all you have." She took him by the hand and led him upstairs, where she was the waiting maid. When the princess saw the wares, she was quite delighted and said, "They are so beautifully worked that I will buy them all of you." But faithful John said, "I am only the servant of a rich merchant. The things I have here are not to be compared with those my master has in his ship. They are the most beautiful and valuable things that have ever been made in gold." She wanted to have everything brought to her there. But he said there are so many of them that it would take a great many days to do that, and so many rooms would be required to exhibit them that your house is not big enough. Then her curiosity and longing were still more excited, until at last she said, "Conduct me to the ship. I will go there myself and behold the treasures of your master." At this, faithful John was quite delighted and led her to the ship. And when the king saw her, he perceived that her beauty was even greater than the picture had represented it to thee, and thought no other than that his heart would burst in twain. Then she got into the ship, and the king led her within. Faithful John, however, remained behind with the pilot, and ordered the ship to be pushed off, saying, "Set all sail till it fly like a bird in air." Within, however, the king showed her the golden vessels, every one of them, also the wild beasts and strange animals. Many hours went by whilst she was seeing everything, and in her delight she did not observe that the ship was sailing away. After she had looked at the last, she thanked the merchant and wanted to go home. But when she came to the side of the ship, she saw that it was on the deep sea far from land, and hurrying onwards with all sail set. "Ah," cried she in her alarm, "I am betrayed, I am carried away, and have fallen into the power of a merchant. I die, rather." The king, however, seized her hand and said, "I am not a merchant. I am a king, and of no meaner origin than you are. And if I have carried you away with subtlety, that has come to pass because of my exceeding great love for you. The first time that I looked on your portrait, I fell fainting to the earth. When the princess of the golden dwelling heard this, she was comforted, and her heart was drawn to him, so that she willingly consented to be his wife. It happened, however, while they were sailing onwards over the deep sea, that faithful John, who was sitting on the forepart of the vessel, making music, saw 3 ravens in the air, which came flying towards them. At this, he stopped playing and listened to what they were saying to each other. For that, he well understood. One cried, "Oh, there he is, carrying home the princess of the golden dwelling." "Yes," replied the second, "but he has not got her yet." Said the third, "But he has got her. She is sitting beside him in the ship." Then the first began again, and cried, "What good will that do him?" When they reach land, a chestnut horse will leap forward to meet him, and the prince will want to mount it. But if he does that, it will run away with him and rise up into the air, and he will never see his maiden more, spoke the second. "But is there no escape?" "Oh, yes, if anyone else gets on it swiftly and takes out the pistol, which must be in its holster, and shoots the horse dead with it, the young king is saved. But who knows that? And whosoever does know it, and tells it to him, will be turned to stone from the toe to the knee." Then said the second, "I know more than that. Even if the horse be killed, the young king will still not keep his bride. When they go into the castle together, a wart bridal garment will be lying there in a dish, and looking as if it were woven of gold and silver. It is, however, nothing but sulfur and pitch, and if he puts it on, it will burn him to the very bone and marrow." Said the third, "Is there no escape at all?" "Oh, yes," replied the second. "If anyone with gloves on seizes the garment and throws it into the fire, and burns it, the young king will be saved. But what avails that whosoever knows it and tells it to him, half his body will become stone from the knee to the heart? Then said the third, I know still more. Even if the bridal garment be burnt, the young king will still not have his bride. After the wedding, when the dancing begins, and the young queen is dancing, she will suddenly turn pale and fall down as if dead. And if someone does not lift her up and draw 3 drops of blood from her right breast and spit them out again, she will die. But if anyone who knows that were to declare it, he would become stoned from the crown of his head to the sole of his foot. When the ravens had spoken of this together, they flew onwards, and faithful John had well understood everything. But from that time forth he became quiet and sad, for if he concealed what he had heard from his master, the latter would be unfortunate, and if he discovered it to him, he himself must sacrifice his life. At length, however, he said to himself, I will save my master, even if it bring destruction on myself. When therefore they came to shore, all happened as it had been foretold by the ravens, and a magnificent chestnut horse sprang forward. Could, said the king, he shall carry me to my palace, and was about to mount it, when faithful John got before him, jumped quickly on it, drew the pistol out of the holster, and shot the horse. Then the other attendants of the king, who after all were not very fond of faithful John, cried, How shameful to kill the beautiful animal that was to have carried the king to his palace. But the king said, Hold your peace and leave him alone. He is my most faithful John, who knows what good may come of this. They went into the palace, and in the hall there stood a dish, and therein lay the bridal garment, looking no otherwise than as if it were made of gold and silver. The young king went towards it, and was about to take hold of it. But faithful John pushed him away, seized it with gloves on, carried it quickly to the fire, and burnt it. The other attendants again began to murmur, and said, Behold, now he is even burning the king's bridal garment. But the young king said, Who knows what good he may have done? Leave him alone. He is my most faithful John. And now the wedding was solemnized. The dance began, and the bride also took part in it. Then faithful John was watchful and looked into her face, and suddenly she turned pale and fell to the ground as if she were dead. On this, he ran hastily to her, lifted her up, and bore her into a chamber. Then he laid her down and knelt and sucked the 3 drops of blood from her right breast and spat them out. Immediately, she breathed again and recovered herself. But the young king had seen this, and being ignorant why faithful John had done it, was angry and cried, "Throw him into a dungeon." Next morning, faithful John was condemned and led to the gallows. And when he stood on high and was about to be executed, he said, "Everyone who has to die is permitted before his end to make one last speech. May I too claim the right?" "Yes," answered the king, "it shall be granted unto you." Then said faithful John, "I am unjustly condemned, and have always been true to you." And he related how he had hearkened to the conversation of the ravens when on the sea, and how he had been obliged to do all these things in order to save his master. Then cried the king, "O my most faithful John, pardon, pardon, bring him down." But as faithful John spoke the last word, he had fallen down lifeless and become a stone. Thereupon the king and the queen suffered great anguish, and the king said, "Ah, how ill have requited great fidelity," and ordered the stone figure to be taken up and placed in his bedroom beside his bed. And as often as he looked at it, he wept and said, "Ah, if I could bring you to life again, my most faithful John." Some time passed, and the queen bore twins, 2 sons, who grew fast, Clear's throat, and where her delight. Once when the queen was at church, and the 2 children were sitting playing beside their father, the latter, full of grief, again looked at the stone figure and said, "Ah, if I could but bring you to life again, my most faithful John." Then the stone began to speak and said, "You can bring me to life again if you will use for that purpose what is dearest to you." Then cried the king, "I will give everything I have in the world for you." The stone continued, "If you will cut off the heads of your 2 children with your own hand and sprinkle me with their blood shall be restored to life." The king was terrified when he heard that he himself must kill his dearest children. But he thought of faithful John's great fidelity and how he had died for him, drew his sword, and with his own hand cut off the children's heads. And when he had smeared the stone with their blood, life returned to it, and faithful John stood once more safe and healthy before him. He said to the king, "Your truth shall not go unrewarded," and took the heads of the children, put them on again, and rubbed the wounds with their blood, at which they became whole again immediately, and jumped about, and went on playing as if nothing had happened. Then the king was full of joy, and when he saw the queen coming, he hid faithful John and the 2 children in a great cupboard. When she entered, he said to her, "Have you been praying in the church?" "Yes," answered she, "but I have constantly been thinking of faithful John and what misfortune has befallen him through us." Then said he, "Dear wife, we can give him his life again, but it will cost us our 2 little sons whom we must sacrifice." The queen turned pale, and her heart was full of terror. But she said, "We owe it to him for his great fidelity." Then the king was rejoiced that she thought as he had thought, and went and opened the cupboard, and brought forth faithful John and the children, and said, "God be praised. He is delivered, and we have our little sons again also," and told her how everything had occurred. Then they dwelt together in much happiness until their death. Tale 5. The Good Bargain. A peasant had driven his cow to the fair and sold her for 7 taler. On the way home, he had to pass a pond, and already from afar he heard the frogs crying, "Ike, Ike, Ike." "Well," said he to himself, "they are talking nonsense. It is 7 that I have received, not 8. When he got to the water, he cried to them, "Stupid animals that you are! Don't you know better than that? It is 7 taler, and not 8. The frogs, however, stuck to their I come. Then, if you won't believe it, I can count it out to you." And he took his money out of his pocket and counted out the 7 taler, always reckoning 4 and 20, groschen to a tailor. The frogs, however, paid no attention to his reckoning, but still cried, "Ike, Ike, Ike." "What?" cried the peasant, quite angry. "If you know better than I, count it yourselves," and threw all the money at them into the water. He stood still and wanted to wait until they were done and had brought him his own again. But the frogs maintained their opinion and cried continually, "Ike, Ike, 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 Ike," and besides, did not throw the money out again. He still waited a long while until evening came on, and he was forced to go home. Then he abused the frogs and cried, "You water splashes, you thick heads, you goggle eyes, you have great mouths and can screech till you hurt one's ears, but you cannot count 7 tailor. Do you think I'm going to stand here till you get done?" And with that, he went away, but the frog still cried, "Ike, Ike, Ike, Ike," after him, till he went home quite angry. After a while, he bought another cow, which he killed, and he made the calculation that if he sold the meat well, he might gain as much as the 2 cows were worth, and have the skin into the bargain. When therefore he got to the town with the meat, a great troop of dogs were gathered together in front of the gate, with a large greyhound at the head of them, which jumped at the meat, sniffed at it, and barked, "Wow, wow, wow." As there was no stopping him, the peasant said to him, "Yet, I know quite well that you are saying, 'Wow, wow, wow,' because you want some of the meat, but I should fare badly if I were to give it to you." The dog, however, answered nothing but, "Wow, wow." "Will you promise not to devour it all then? And will you go bail for your companions?" "Wow, wow," said the dog. "Well, if you insist on it, I will leave it for you. I know you well, and know who is your master. But this I tell you, I must have my money in 3 days, or else it will go ill with you. You may just bring it out to me." Thereupon he unloaded the meat, turned back again. The dogs fell upon it and loudly barked, "Wow, wow." The countryman who heard them from afar said to himself, "Ark, now they all want some, but the big one is responsible to me for it." When 3 days had passed, the countryman thought, "Tonight my money will be in my pocket," and was quite delighted, but no one would come and pay it. "There is no trusting anyone now," said he. And at last he lost patience and went into the town to the butcher and demanded his money. The butcher thought it was a joke, but the peasant said, jesting apart, "I will have my money. Did not the great dog bring you the whole of the slaughtered cow 3 days ago?" Then the butcher grew angry, snatched a broomstick, and drove him out. "Wait a while," said the peasant. "There is still some justice in the world," and went to the royal palace and begged for an audience. He was led before the king, who sat there with his daughter, and asked him what injury he had suffered. "Alas," said he, "the frogs and the dogs have taken from me what is mine, and the butcher has paid me for it with the stick." And he related at full length what had happened. Thereupon the king's daughter began to laugh heartily. And the king said to him, "I cannot give you justice in this, but you shall have my daughter to wife for it. In her whole life she has never yet laughed as she has just done at you. And I have promised her to him who could make her laugh. You may thank God for your good fortune." "Oh," answered the peasant, "I do not want her at all. I have a wife already, and she is one too many for me. When I go home, it is just as bad as if I had a wife standing in every corner." Then the king grew angry and said, "You are a bore." "Ah, Lord King," replied the peasant, "what can you expect from an ox but beef?" "Stop," answered the king. "You shall have another reward. Be off now, but come back in 3 days, and then you shall have 500 counted out in 4. When the peasant went out by the gate, the sentry said, "You have made the king's daughter laugh, so you will certainly receive something good." "Yes, that is what I think," answered the peasant. 500 are to be counted out to me." "Listen," said the soldier, "give me some of it. What can you do with all that money? As it is, you said the peasant, you shall have 200. Present yourself in 3 days' time before the king, and let it be paid to you." A Jew who was standing by and had heard the conversation ran after the peasant, held him by the coat, and said, O wonder of God, what a child of fortune you are. I will change it for you. I will change it for you into small coins. What do you want with the great towers? Jew, said the countryman, 300. Can you still have? Give it to me at once in coin in 3 days. From this you will be paid for it by the king. The Jew was delighted with the small profit and brought the sum in bad jaya, 3 of which were worth 2 good ones. After 3 days had passed, according to the king's command, the peasant went before the king. Pull his coat off, said the latter. He shall have his 500. Ah, said the peasant, they no longer belong to me. I presented 200 of them to the sentinel, and 300 the Jew has changed for me. So by right, nothing at all belongs to me. In the meantime, the soldier and the Jew entered and claimed what they had gained from the peasant, and they received the blows strictly counted out. The soldier bore it patiently and knew already how it tasted. But the Jew said sorrowfully, Alas, alas, are these the heavy tailor? The king could not help laughing at the peasant, and when all his anger was spent, he said, As you have already lost your reward before it fell to your lot, I will give you compensation. Go into my treasure chamber and get some money for yourself, as much as you will. The peasant did not need to be told twice, and stuffed into his big pockets whatsoever would go in. Afterwards, he went to an inn and counted out his money. The Jew had crept after him and heard how he muttered to himself, That rogue of a king has cheated me after all. Why could he not have given me the money himself, and then I should have known what I had? How can I tell now if what I have had the luck to put in my pockets is right or not? Good heavens, said the Jew to himself. That man is speaking disrespectfully of our Lord the King. I will run and inform, and then I shall get a reward, and he will be punished as well. When the king heard of the peasant's words, he fell into a passion and commanded the Jew to go and bring the offender before him. The Jew ran to the peasant. You are to go at once to the Lord King in the very clothes you have on. I know what's right. Better than that, answered the peasant. I shall have a new coat made first. Think you that a man with so much money in his pocket is to go there in his ragged old coat, the Jew, as he saw that the peasant would not stir without another coat, and as he feared that if the king's anger called, he himself would lose his reward, and the peasant his punishment, said, I will, out of pure friendship, lend you a coat for the short time. What will people not do for love? The peasant was contented with this, put the Jew's coat on, and went off with him. The king reproached the countryman because of the evil speaking of which the Jew had informed him. Ah, said the peasant, what a Jew says always falls. No true word ever comes out of his mouth. That rascal there is capable of maintaining that I have his coat on. What is that? Shrieked the Jew. Is the coat not mine? Have I not lent it to you out of pure friendship, in order that you might appear before the Lord King? When the king heard that, he said, the Jew has assuredly deceived one or the other of us, either myself or the peasant. And again he ordered something to be counted out to him in hard talus. The peasant, however, went home in the good coat, and with the good money in his pocket, and said to himself, this time I have made it. And now, dear friend, our journey through these timeless, grim tales has come to a peaceful close. The forests have fallen silent. The lanterns have dimmed, and the old storytellers have tucked away their final tale until another quiet evening. Thank you for spending this gentle night with the sleepy story. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be filled with quiet wonder, and may tomorrow greet you with peace. Good night, my dear friend.